Examiners will come to order.
Thank you, Governor. For the record, we have Governor Little and Attorney General Labrador here in person. On our consent agenda today, we have the minutes from January of 2017, 2023. Item number 2 is from the Office of Emergency Management. This is one incident from Bannock County.
Because there's just 3 of them.
Item number 3 is from the Ada County Sheriff's Office. This is the transportation of prisoners. Item number 4 is from the Department of Administration. This has 2 items. One is a assignment of contract, and the other one is a lease assignment. And item number 5 is from the Office of the Secretary of State. This is updating their distribution list of Idaho Code and its supplements. And that concludes the consent agenda for the Board of Examiners.
You can move the adoption of the consent agenda.
I'll move to adopt a consent agenda.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The consent agenda has been feebly adopted.
Governor and Attorney General, on the informational item, there are 2 items from the State Controller's Office. The first one was the board asked our office to do a regular review of the in-state per diem. The subcommittee chose not to make any changes at this time, but we just included in the packet for you to review a survey of what we did, the results of here in state, what the border states and what the historical values, just so you have that for reference. Item number 7 is from the Controller's Offices, the report of overtime paid on FLSA exempt employees for our office working on LUMA. And item number 8 is from the State Insurance Fund. And that concludes the agenda for the Board of Examiners.
Very good. Motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Non-debatable. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. We are adjourned. If you're going to do that, we better get started. Commissioners come to order. Director Miller.
All right. Thank you.
2/3 of our new members.
Well, thank you, Governor and Land Board members, and good morning. This is the regular meeting of the State Board of Land Commissioners for Tuesday, February 21st, 2023, and our first regular Land Board meeting of the year. And really want to welcome our new members, Attorney General Labrador, Superintendent Critchfield, and Secretary McGrain. I think we'll be here soon. So I look forward to working with you and working through all the challenges and opportunities ahead of us as we work towards doing great things for the endowment beneficiaries. So as customary, I'll walk us through the department report. So at any time, go ahead and stop me and we can I can answer questions. So tab 1, attachment A in your binders is the department timber sales transactions activities. During January of 2023, the Department of Land sold 3 endowment timber sales at auction, and all of which had competitive bidding. The net sale value represents an 11% upbid over the appraised value. There were 2 endowment timber sales that did not sell at auction. However, these 2 unsuccessful sales are being reappraised to account for current market conditions and will be re-advertised and offered for sale at a later date. The FY22 sales plan has 1 remaining sale to be sold at auction. This is a Wildcat Cedar sale up at the Priest Lake area. It's the 3rd and final attempt at auction, which is scheduled for February 28th. For this sale, we have removed the obligation for the purchaser to chip seal the road, which is about 2.5 miles of road, bringing the road development costs down to within land board policy. And so the road development costs are now below 50% of the net sale value. So we're hoping to get this sale sold by the end of the month.
Is Wildcat the one with the bridge on it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Total sawlog volume sold in January was more than 16.8 million board feet with a net sale value of nearly $5.2 million and $308.60 a thousand board foot. The next table shows our timber sales that were either sold or are scheduled for sale later this month. I will be reporting on the results of these sales at the next meeting. 5 sales in Northern Ops amount to nearly 22.9 million board feet of volume and is valued at just over $6 million. And the 2 sales in South Ops includes 9.2 million board feet of volume valued at just over $1 million. The next table gives you the details of our timber volume under contract as of January 31st. The department currently has 152 active timber contracts. Total volume under contract is about 458.5 million board feet, valued at $135.5 million. Most of the purchasers typically harvest this volume within 1 to 3 years of purchase, but contracts generally cover a 5-year window. So interest is assessed at 6% each year. The wood under contract remains on the stump. So that's the incentive for purchasers to harvest the wood sooner than later. The next table on page 2 is a summary of the department's timber harvest receipts. Fiscal year to date, timber harvest receipts have amounted to more than $55.5 million. January brought in more than $6.2 million, while February is likely to bring in a little more than $6 million in stumpage and interest. And the bottom table is the status of the FY23 timber sale program. Currently sold or in process is over 160 million board feet of volume, or about 49% of the volume offered in the FY23 sales plan. And currently we are about 50% of the way through the annual cedar pole program. And turning your attention to the bottom graph on page 2, current fiscal year to date harvest receipts is about 105% of the 3-year average. Given more volume now being offered pursuant to the Forest Asset Management Plan and the volume currently under contract, the orange bands give us a range of where we expect timber harvest receipts to come in by the end of the fiscal year. The next graph on the top of page 3 is your cumulative harvest volume, and we are at 98% of the 3-year average. Governor, Land Board members, the bottom graph on page 3 is our monthly lumber and stumpage price index, and I'm already seeing the smile from the governor, so I will go through this as quickly as possible, Governor. I'm going to take a few minutes to explain this for those that may be a little bit unfamiliar with it. So the graph shows several related but very different measures of lumber and stumpage prices over time. And the green line represents lumber prices using the inland composite lumber price. Note the significant price volatility depicted by the green line on the graph. This was during particular 2020 through 2022. These were the years that we were in the thick of it during the COVID pandemic. So that was not typical to see. Many factors influenced lumber prices during this period of time, including a high demand for home repair and remodeling, as well as new home construction. In addition, supply chain issues such as transportation and labor shortages contributed to these high prices. The green line is the price for finished lumber, and I want to emphasize that there will always be a delta between lumber and stumpage prices due to harvesting, transportation, processing costs, plus mill profit. Mills have sufficient volume under contract to allow for ongoing operations independent of lumber price swings, so stumpage prices wouldn't be expected to respond immediately to lumber price changes. IDL timber prices are fixed for the contract term, so once under contract, prices don't escalate or decrease based on market conditions. Endowment timber sales sold in any month are likely to be harvested, like I said earlier, 1 to 3 years later, except in the case of salvage sales, which are done in an expedited fashion for obvious reasons. The dark red line shows the stumpage price received for timber sales auctioned each month. Stumpage is the price paid for contractual right to harvest timber on endowment lands. This line appears to show month-to-month volatility in timber stumpage prices, moving differently from lumber prices. However, while lumber prices and stumpage prices are not unrelated, the variability shown by the dark red line is mostly due to the characteristics of each timber sale, again, such as species composition, volume per acre, the complexity of the harvesting systems, topography, and of course, the haul distance to the mills. The key to receiving the best price for the beneficiaries is marketing the high quality sales that generate interest amongst the multiple bidders. And the blue line depicts the rolling 6-month average for stumpage price for the endowment timber sales. This line combines all sales from the highest quality cedar sales and other sawlog timber to the lowest value species and salvage sales. The blue line is a better indicator of the long-term stumpage price trends, removing the month-to-month variability of the individual sales discussed previously. And if you note that since the spring of 2020, stumpage prices have trended up rather significantly based on the 6-month average. For example, during 2019, the average was around $200 a thousand, while from the middle of 2021 until present, the price has increased to over $300 a thousand. If lumber prices trend lower and remain lower, then over time, stumpage prices would likely trend lower as well. So just real quickly, regarding current market trends on the finished lumber side, prices are well below the peak levels seen again between 2020 and 2022, and have approached the price level that was typical of 2019. Weather delays, economic uncertainty, and a bearish January housing start report were contributing factors. Single-family housing starts have declined for 5 months and are down about 21% year over year. And single-family permits were slightly higher in January, though down 27% year over year. And again, the 30-year mortgage rate was 6.32%, higher than the last few weeks. The pace of new home sales increased last week through prices, though prices are trending lower. So that's a little bit of what's going on with the market right now. We've talked a lot about this graph. I'd love to see the 6-month average price pull up even higher, and you do see that pull up over time. Again, we're right now January 2023. The 6-month average price is just over $311 a thousand. So, Governor, with that, I will stand for questions on this portion of the report.
I assume what's the star right in the middle of Valley County that shows the sale, which I don't think there's any state land out there.
So, Governor, that was a ton sale. If I can get the name of that, it was called the Fool's Gold Ton Sale, I believe. And I'm looking at Jeremy Shaver, and he'll get up and stop me if I'm incorrect here. But I believe that ton sale was one of the sales that did not sell this last month.
Where is it?
Yeah, Governor, thank you for the question. Off the top of my head, I don't know exactly. It's out of the McCall supervisory area. Fool's Gold Ton, I believe that was, I would have to look back at the vicinity map and make sure exactly where it was.
Looks like it's right in the middle of Forest Service property.
We might have to double check the
All right.
the GIS layer, but
Later.
yeah.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Governor, that may be right in the middle of your grazing allotment.
No, it's not.
Just
The map's out of scale.
Okay, if there's no further questions there, I'll direct you to page 1 of attachment B. This is the endowment transactions, including leasing permits and real estate transactions within the trust land management division. In January, the department issued a total of 13 instruments, which includes 6 lease assignments and 7 land use permits. The department also granted 7 deeds in January related to the University of Idaho's Cafe land acquisition in Minidoka County and the Vandals One timberland acquisition in North Idaho, which closed in January. So those were deeds acquired. I misspoke there earlier. On to page 2. This is our monthly fiscal year to date trust land management division revenue to the end of January, and this is for non-timber revenue. Total income generated from leasing activities through January is nearly $4.2 million, just slightly ahead of expected revenue, with our fiscal year and target being about $6.3 million. You'll see there's been a lot of activity on the commercial side. Some big contributing factors there were the recreational access agreement with the Department of Fish and Game. Those monies have come in, as well as our lease payment from Tamarack Resort.
Governor,
Controller.
Director, I don't know if you or one of your staff members, but on the bottom there, the real estate, I know what that was in the past years. It was, the out in Caldwell property, but for this year, what is this real estate services, the 183,000? What is that generated from?
Well, I might ask Jason Laney if he knows this question, but these are certainly funds paid to the department by a proponent, given the closing of real estate transactions. I believe VAFO Properties We're part of this. Some of the money that we've recently sold on VAFO have gone into that account. So, Jason, I don't know if there's anything else to expand upon that. We can get you more details on that 183. Okay, turning to page 3, cumulative trust land program receipts. This graph reflects how we compare against the 3-year average for leasing receipts, where we currently sit about 110% of the 3-year average. On to page 4, this is the status of revenue and royalties from the sale of minerals such as sand and gravel, phosphates and other minerals. This money is deposited into the permanent fund. As you can see on this graph, thus far this fiscal year, we have deposited nearly $1.4 million into the permanent fund, tracking just slightly below the 3-year average. And 68% of this revenue is derived from the sale of sand and gravel. Well, Governor, I will stop there to see if there's any questions.
Questions? Go
Governor,
ahead, Superintendent.
thank you. And it's not, my question isn't related specifically to this graph, but to the information you presented on the timber sales and all of the information. So I hope
Go ahead.
that's all right. And I'm going to chalk this up to a new person trying to understand this. Dustin, you made the comment when you looked at the graph on page 3, the monthly lumber and stumpage price, that you were hoping to see that get up, to climb. I guess this is a question just about the function of this group, but decisions that we make here, does that impact that? Or are all of those, the graphs, are they all determined by market factors that are unrelated to decisions here? What's the, I guess, the cooperation or the connection between these two things?
Governor and Superintendent Critchfield, thank you for the question. So certainly we're at the mercy of the market on a lot of this. If you look at the graph, how volatile the timber market, the lumber market has been. And so you see our stumpage price kind of tick along there. The gaps there in the red are times when we've had no sales in a particular month. Ultimately, given the high lumber prices, our 6-month average price has trended up. It has ticked up given the high prices. Plus, I will say that adding more volume to the market is always a good thing, as long as there's purchasers out there that are able to buy it, right? A lot of log yards are full. There's 458 million board feet currently under contract right now. So that's wood that's still on the stump that was bought at a certain price that will be cut at a later date. We're trending up towards 328 million board feet. That was a 5-year ramp up in our forest asset management plan from 247. That was supported by the land board. We will be entering, we have entered year 4 of that FAMP to ramp up to 328. And we will be taking a look at the next forest asset management plan. We'll push that number even higher and put more wood out there on the market. Right now, the department provides roughly 30% of the total stumpage for the industry in Idaho. So we provide 30% of the volume for the entire industry in Idaho. So we're a big player, and the land board does play a huge role in ensuring that we are implementing the right plans and policies to keep those lines going in the right direction. More fees for the endowments, more income for the endowments, and so certainly when we bring our annual sales plan and our updated forest asset management plan, that's an opportunity for the land board to make some decisions to bless that plan, make changes to the plan, and allow us to put more volume on the market and thus ultimately more income for the endowments. So, okay, there's no further questions. Governor, I will move on to the land bank balance, attachment C in your binders. This is your quarterly land bank aging report. As a reminder, proceeds from the sales of endowment lands go into this fund to be used to acquire other properties for the endowments. If each deposit is not used within a 5-year time frame, then the money automatically rolls into the permanent fund and is added to the endowment's financial assets. So the current balance in the land bank, including interest, is just over $66.6 million. That accounts for the Vandals 1 acquisition. What's not accounted for just yet is about $17 million that's yet to go to the College of Ag and Life Sciences for the buildings and improvements in the cafe center. So that money will be allocated to the university for those projects.
Director, do we know what interest we're receiving right now?
On the
Rate is?
land bank, Governor.
No, you can get back to me.
Yeah, that's held in the Idaho within the treasurer's office. I don't remember the percentage.
Treasuries are bringing 5% right
Yeah.
now. So
Okay, we'll get back to you on that, Governor. And quickly on to attachment D, unless there's no questions there, Governor, on the land bank.
good.
On to attachment D. This is a current legislative summary. Our fee and non-fee rules, and just pointing out a few things here quickly. Our fee and non-fee rules passed out of the Senate Resources and Environment Committee, but we're currently awaiting action on the House side and the House Resources and Conservation Committee. Quickly onto the budget. The department and the Endowment Fund Investment Board went before JFAC on January 20th, and we have been informed that our budget setting hearing will be February 28th. Just last Friday, JFAC approved our FY23 supplemental request for the Eastern Idaho Cottonwood Forest Protection District and for the fire engines and other equipment needed in other statewide locations. The last thing to point out on the legislative front is that the stakeholder-led legislation S1049, which allows for a warning, then a $250 infraction to be issued to anyone caught violating use restrictions on state endowment lands, passed unanimously out of the Senate Resources and Environment Committee and is awaiting action on the Senate floor. So, Governor, I'll stop there if there's any questions on the
I
legislation.
assume those rules weren't tabled, they were held.
They were,
Okay, because
Yeah,
tabled is different than held, so.
yeah, they were held there. We're awaiting further action on
Okay.
the House side.
Anything else?
Just the last thing, the RPA biannual report. I'll bring up Mick Thomas here to report out on this. This is attachment E in your binders. Mick Thomas is the Division Administrator for Minerals, Navigable Waterways, and Oil and Gas.
Mr. Thomas,
Thank you, Chairman, Governor, members of the Land Board. And thank you, Dustin, for that introduction. Additional information for some new board members. I'm also the Secretary to the Idaho Oil and Gas Conservation Commission and the Land Board Representative to the Advisory Board of the Idaho Geological Survey. So everybody knows what to blame me for as things come along. Thank you. Item 1E in your binder is the Resource Protection and Assistance Bureau biannual update. The Navigable Waterways Program administers lake encroachment permits and submerged land leases, while our Minerals Program oversees mine reclamation plans, dredge and placer permits, and abandoned mine land projects. Funding for the Navigable Waterways Program is provided through a dedicated account, while the Mineral Regulatory Program is enabled through a mix of general and dedicated funds. Regarding our Navigable Waterways Program, Table 1 shows that encroachment permits and submerged land leases have been generally stable over the past 8 years. Over the past 6 months, our program has been able to fill 2 vacancies, positions for the Navigable Waterways Program Manager and a Program Specialist. These positions have assisted the area offices working through new and renewed leases, providing a significant increase in income for the leases over the 5-year average. Excuse me. Turning to page 2, in compliance with Executive Order 2020-01, the rules governing leases on state-owned navigable waterways, IDAPA 200317 was approved, as Director Miller indicated, as a pending rule for review by the 2023 legislature. These were presented to the House Resource and Conservation Committee again on January 31st. There were questions from the committee. These were resolved and the vote was held by the chair. We are nearly finished with our research for IDAPA 200305, riverbed mineral leasing in Idaho. We are scheduling on-site meetings across the state to allow for local participation. The Navigable Waterways Program generated a little over $573,000 in the first half of fiscal year 23. That's a 63% increase over the 5-year average of $351,000. This continues the program's trend of generating approximately $1 million in annual contributions while continuing to be 100% self-funded while outpacing our 5-year average for the period. Before I go into mineral regulatory, are there any questions regarding the navigable waterways program? Thank you. On page 3,
Governor,
excuse me,
I
Chairman.
guess maybe it's the 6-month biannual question. How's things going on the river there in Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, on the buoys and all that's taking place? Does it continue to have good discussions and good progress there?
Yeah, Chairman, Governor, Controller Wolf, yes. This was an issue, as you recall, that kind of came to a head a few years back, right? And in that interim, the area office has been able to continue discussions with the county, right, which also has that jurisdiction over the buoys, not the Department of Lands. But all of us continue to cooperate. I haven't had any indication there's anything bad on the horizon coming into this season. Thank you, Controller. On page 3, we switched to mineral regulatory. The department is in different stages of mine review for some large mines across the state. The department has provided comments for a supplemental EIS environmental impact statement being prepared for Perpetua Resources Stibnite Gold Project. We are working with DEQ to review the cyanidation permit and permanent closure plan for this project. The final environmental impact statement has been issued for the new Husky 1 phosphate mine proposed by Idaho. And additionally, the Delamore mine west of Silver City has completed their redesign and is developing a proposed plan for the Idaho Department of Lands and other agencies. For mine permits and bonding, the department administers 1,556 mine sites covered by reclamation plans and 30 sites covered by dredge and placer permits. The numbers in table 2 and 3 on page 3 have been relatively static over the past few years. Turning over to page 4, you'll see a summary of the financial assurance methods available for operators. Idaho offers traditional bonding, as well as a bond assurance fund that is available for operators up to 40 acres of current disturbance. And that fund takes in approximately $156,000 annually. Toward the bottom of page 4, you'll see a summary of the bond per acre for general type of mining in Idaho, as well as a breakdown of the bond assurance fund contributions by mine size. A graph of the bond assurance fund financing is available at the top of page 5. Halfway down page 5, you'll see a summary of the Idaho Abandoned Mine Lands Fund. In Idaho, the AML receives 1/3 of 1% of the mine license tax. This tax is a net tax taken after direct mining expenses have been deducted as described in IDAPA 350108 and excludes sand and gravel. For the first half of fiscal year 23, this 1/3 of 1% totaled $9,574, which is more than the total amount for all of fiscal year 22. As members of the board know, the department is working with stakeholders to develop statutory changes to address funding shortfalls. Table 7 lists some of the projects funded by the AML funded during the first half of fiscal year 23, and a graph highlighting expenses versus revenues at the top of page 6. Thank you, Chairman and members of the board, for your time today. I stand for any questions.
Questions? Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mick.
Okay, Governor, on to the Endowment Fund Investment Board report. Mr. Antone is here.
Governor, members of the Land Board, good morning. My name is Chris Antone. I'm the manager of investments for the Endowment Fund Investment Board. It's nice to meet all of you and look forward to building a relationship with you. I'll be here every month providing you with an update on the performance of the Endowment Fund. As you can see in your report, financial markets moved higher in January as Europe was helped by significantly lower natural gas prices. China finally began to reopen as it relaxed COVID zero policies, and the U.S. continued to experience moderating inflation and a resilient labor market. The fund was up 5.2% during the month, which left us up 8.1% fiscal year to date. Financial markets were closed on Monday, but through Friday, the fund was up 7.7%. So we're in about the same place we were at the end of January. The improvement in business sentiment is certainly welcome, but it remains to be seen how quickly inflation will cool and how long the Fed will maintain its restrictive monetary policies. Inflation did cool slightly in January. The annual rate for headline inflation dropped from 6.5% in December to 6.4% in January. So certainly inflation is moving down, but is fairly sticky, and we have a long way to go to reach the Fed's goal of 2%. Investors seem to be anticipating that the Fed will cut rates soon. However, the Fed insists that they're going to keep rates, strong and at the current high levels through the end of 2023. That dynamic is very important because, as all of you know, the longer rates stay at an elevated level, the greater the probability the economy will slow and we could move into a recession. In terms of activities by the board, we had a board meeting last Thursday. We did review Callan's annual capital markets assumptions and looked at our asset allocation. The board elected to keep our asset allocation the same as it has been. Our next meeting will be in May. And for those of you who are new to the land board, our board typically appears before the land board twice a year in May and November. We participate in the first part of the meeting, provide a semi-annual and an annual report. It's an opportunity for the land board to get to know our board members as well. The second part of the report, Exhibit B, just provides more detail on how the fund did by sub-asset category and how each of the investment managers performed. The green and the red, I guess it's important to highlight, those don't indicate whether we're up or down. They indicate whether we're better than the benchmark. And the governor requested this. I think it's a helpful tool. If it's green, it means that the managers have performed better than their respective benchmark. If it's red, they've performed worse than their benchmark. Certainly, if you buy the benchmark in an index form, it's less expensive than hiring an active manager. So we want to know that they're earning their keep and they're outperforming their respective benchmark. And so far, fiscal year to date, that's happened. Governor, that concludes my remarks, but I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Antone. Questions?
Governor.
Controller.
Thank you, Mr. Anton. Is there any concerns of any of the fund managers knowing that how things are going and proceeding forward, but do you have any concerns or your board?
Governor, Controller Wolf, one of the managers that we've really kept a close eye on is Sands Capital. They're a large cap growth manager. And as the Fed has increased interest rates, growth stocks have come under considerable pressure, and they more than the growth index. They were down almost 50% last year. If you look at the second page of that report, you'll see so far fiscal year to date, they're up 15.1. They were up, I think, 23% last week. They're finally starting to improve. But if you look at their, the fiscal year to date, or the last 3 years, they're still about 0.9% below their benchmark. So we're keeping a close eye on Sands. I think a lot of it is the fact that the whole growth market is down, but they've been down more than the market. So we're watching them closely.
I think I asked this before. How often do you mark the real estate to market?
Every quarter.
Okay.
So real estate managers conduct a full appraisal of their properties every quarter. So there's a slight lag in that.
One more.
Controller.
For Mr. Anton, the second from the bottom, the CBRE Core Partners, is that a real estate fund? It's on page 2.
Yes, Governor, Controller Wolf. Yes, that's correct. And it's actually an outstanding fund. If you look at relative to benchmark, however, they don't look that great. And part of the problem was we're in the process of transitioning from the UBS Trumbull Property Fund into the CBRE fund. And as we've all seen, the public REIT markets have taken write-downs as mortgage rates have gone up. The private funds, to the governor's point, there is a lag because they do their appraisals quarterly. And so as we've started to transition into CBRE, the timing hasn't been great because they had write-downs in the fourth quarter right at the time, we're halfway through the transition. So we have confidence in the fund long-term, but their initial performance doesn't look spectacular.
Thank you.
Governor.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Secretary.
I'm just curious because I'm kind of looking at all the benchmarks. Why is our real estate performing so poorly relative to its benchmark compared to others? And there may be good justification. I'm just not familiar.
Yes, Governor, Secretary McGrain. Yeah, so the benchmark is what they call the Odyssey Index, which is it's an equity real estate fund with fairly low leverage. So there's different levels of leverage in the real estate fund. Historically, we've had 2 real estate funds, the DWS Reef America 2, which is a core fund that's consistent with the benchmark, and the UBS Trumbull Property Fund that I referenced earlier. That was about half of our real estate. And they were in a loan fund, essentially a leverage loan fund. They would loan up to 95% of the property, and they would take some of the equity upside. The challenge has been, as all these private credit funds have developed, that they just haven't been able to generate any new business. And that's why we're transitioning away from them. But to your specific question, the reason we're less than the benchmark is because that's not an equity fund, it's a loan fund, and therefore has lower performance, and that's half of our real estate performance. And therefore it's more conservative and has lower returns.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Mr. Anton.
Thank you.
Governor, on to the consent agenda. The only thing we have here is tab 3, the approval of the draft minutes from the December 20th, 2022 meeting.
Governor,
Mr. Controller,
I move approval and adoption of the consent agenda.
Second.
moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The consent agenda has been adopted.
Okay, Governor, the regular agenda, the only item here is tab 4, the approval of the elk hide timber sale. And we'll bring up Jeremy Shaver, our section manager for timber sales, to present on this topic.
Thank you, Director. Good morning, Governor and members of the Land Board. For the record, my name is Jeremy Shaver, and like Dustin said, I'm the Land Section Manager for Timber Sales and Contract Administration. Today, I'm here to present the elk hide timber sale for your consideration. Based upon the December 2015 Land Board meeting, the department will only present individual sales that fall outside a Land Board policy for approval. Clear cuts exceeding 100 acres is one of those instances. The elk hide timber sale submitted by the Ponderosa Supervisory Area is a part of the fiscal year 2023 sales plan that was approved last April. The sale is located about 15.5 air miles east of Deary, Idaho, as seen on the vicinity map as attachment 3. Unit 2, 89 acres, is within IDL ownership that has been previously managed. Unit 1, which is 77 acres, is adjacent to IDL ownership that has been previously managed to the north and to the west. To the east of Unit 1 lies a strip of non-industrial private timber. You can see the orientation of the units and the sale and on the sale and ownership maps found as attachments 1 and 2. The proposed clear-cut harvest for the sale consists of 2 clear-cut units. The units are connected for approximately 200 feet along a secondary forest road, resulting in 166 acres of clear-cut harvesting. The unit break is along a watershed divide where Unit 1 flows south into Shattuck Creek and Unit 2 flows northwest into Sea Stem Creek. The preferred seral species are a minor component of the stand and are not expected to produce enough cones and seed for desired natural regeneration. The site will be planted with a mix of seral species that will optimize the site's potential. The adjacent stands have been successfully planted to adequate stocking to maximize returns to the beneficiaries. The sale has been prepared to meet or exceed the Forest Practices Act. The proposed clear-cut harvest units are civiculturally and economically justified and were approved by the Timber Management Bureau as seen on attachment 5. This sale, as proposed, meets the objectives of the Ponderosa Area Forest Asset Management Plan. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Questions? Thank you.
Governor,
Controller,
I move we approve the elk hide timber sale as recommended by the board or the department, excuse me.
Second.
moved and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the sale has been approved. Thank you.
Governor, that's all we have on the agenda for the day. There's nothing on the information.
Governor, I
Controller Wolf.
move adjourn.
Been moved for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We are adjourned.